So this is the raw Casey Jones #1 before it's gone into the moisture bath, and as you can see, it has some waviness. I purchased it like that on purpose because it was a good rate, and I thought that it was a pressable defect. It's a cool little back cover. I also have these Casey Jones and Raphael. Love the American flag hockey mask. It's funny. So what I'm going to do is throw it in the moisture bath here, let it sit for a bit, and then we'll see how it looks prior to putting it in the press. Maybe it'll soften it up a bit to make an easier press. This is book #2. It's not as bad as the first one, but you can definitely see the light catches the waviness of the page. So it's just kind of, these two books are dealing with the same kind of issues. So what I'm hoping is, as I gently place them in the moisture bath, as not to hurt any edges in there, then I'm going to close the top, leave it in there for a couple of hours, let it soften up the book with moisture, and then that should lead to a better press. So the books have been sitting in the moisture bath for 4 hours. You can see they've acquired a little bit more waviness than they initially had. So I'm going to open this up, and you can feel the moisture that had built up in there. And get my gloves on. Alright, so pardon the mess while I get my office organized, but I was excited to do my initial first press. You can see some of the pages have curled up a bit from the moisture, so I'm going to do kind of a variation of what was done with, you can see the pages here are prepared for a nice press. So I'm going to take some of these Golden Age backing boards here and put the matte side toward the cover. Do another one for the back cover. I have the matte side facing, and this is the very first time I'm ever doing this, so we'll see how they turn out. Kind of following a variation of things that I've seen online, but it's exciting to. You can feel the pages are a little moist, which is it's cool. I think that's going to definitely help the pressing here. Okay, so that's just about even. It's pressed in without getting a little too crazy on the pages there. So I'll place this first one inside here and press. Interesting thing about this Casey Jones book is that it's the cover is glossy, but the pages are pulp material. So I'm curious if I gave myself a little bit too much of a challenge to start with, but I guess I am kind of nervous starting off and having this be the first time. I had a little bit of instruction from some really good people that I trust, and just watched a ton of videos online, so I'm hoping that it turns out, but essentially I'm trying to follow the same setup. Some people use parchment paper in between the pages, some people use these Teflon sheets that I have on the bottom of the press, and This Casey Jones book is so cool. I mean, you gotta take a peek at that. So my hope is that because of the, let's do the middle one first. Because of the moisture, that it will press better. I have to do one of those YouTube style jump cuts because for whatever reason I can't get this page, and I'm trying to be really delicate with it as to not mess up any of the pages. So there goes that. That one's in the middle. And one more matte side towards the cover. I don't know, I'll just give it a try. Let's see. I think some people do a glossy side of the backing board to the cover, but I putting a few layers on top of it. All right, so that looks like it's good to go. I'm kind of facing alternate ends of themselves here. And let's go for another piece of parchment paper on top of these books here. That seems pretty flat. No debris on the covers. Turn this on. I have it set to 175. Let me just move this a bit closer. And 175 and 25 seconds. And then what I'm going to do as this is heating up, I'm then going to press the books and let them sit for about 6 hours. If I didn't mention it, I'd cut a piece of aluminum that is matching the heating element here, and the hope is that it will equally heat the book on both ends as to flatten it out, so it reduces the amount of time that it needs to be in there and reduces the amount of times that potentially I'd have to flip it over. We'll see if that works. So as this is heating up, I'm just kind of crossing my fingers, hoping for the best, and we'll see. You know, it's a little bit of trial and error for doing these kinds of things, but if it works out, that'll be pretty cool. I have some Walking Dead 163 in the background in the hopes that maybe I'll get those remarked at some point, because there's just so much open, beautiful space on that cover that I'd like to see some different artists' interpretations of that space. All right, we're almost there. I'll have it speed through. I'd switch the machine from Celsius to Fahrenheit, and to my knowledge it's on the Fahrenheit setting. I mean, I would assume if it was much more it'd be insanely hot, but let's see. Yeah, it's green, so that means it's Fahrenheit. All right, well, let's let that sit for a second, cool down, and then when it gets to 175, I'll just quickly press it down and see what happens. I mean, hoping that this doesn't continue to be an issue moving forward. Anyway, all right, there we are. timer's going. And then once it buzzes, I turn it off. All right, now it sits. Set the timer for 6 hours and hope for the best. Thank you for watching this, and we'll tune into the next part in just a second and see what the moment of truth shall be. All right, see you soon. Okay, here we go. So that was 6 hours in the press after being in the moisture bath for 4 hours. As you can see, I have a Star Wars storybook, full color photographs. It's in rough shape, but I wanted to work on pressing a older magazine next, so it seems to have actually helped quite a bit because it was curled quite a bit more. As you can see, it's actually flattened down a bit. So I'm gonna put my gloves on, and I'm gonna check on these Casey Jones books that were, like I said, in the press for 6 hours, and let's hope it worked out. All right. Okay. So take off this top layer. It's 2 pieces of why can't I think of the paper? Teflon sheets? Yes. Okay. So I mean, if you saw the book before, holy cow. The difference is night and day on this, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, that's great. I could still see a little bit of a line. It's going all the way through down here. So I'm curious if that was due to anything that I did or misaligned. It could probably, yeah, it seems like it probably pushed a little bit of the edge here. Let me take this out and see if it's helped. It seems like it should stay longer than 6 hours. I'm not sure if the heating element was enough for the way that I had it set up. You can see it created a little bit of an edge here. So maybe that's not what I should be using for that. Or remove the middle backing board that I had in there. I mean, it looks a million times better than it did, but I think it could stay longer in there. You know what, I think I'm gonna replace it in the way that I had it, in the same way, but I'm going to take out the middle backing board. It seemed to put a little bit of stress on the ends here. Like you can see it, you probably can't see it there, but it's slightly raised up the edge. I'm thinking maybe it was too much pressure from the center of the book, and maybe should have put a Teflon sheet in the center, or a piece of parchment paper. So what I'm going to do is give it another round. Let me just take a peek at this book here. I mean, that's so crisp. Actually, this one turned out quite a bit better, I think. Maybe the inside golden age backing board was just a little too much. A little too much pressure from the inside of the book. I could be wrong. I'm I'm not certain. I think what I will do is do another round. Curious if let me take these backing boards out. Thank you for being patient with me. Yeah, it seems like I could press the edges here. It's slightly raised. I don't know if you could tell, as if maybe I pushed in backing boards too much, or I'm not certain what it was, but the cover looks fantastic. The front and back cover. It's just a small detail of trying to get it to not press any edges into it. So you know what, I'll do another round with these backing boards, and since I did it with the matte end towards the cover, I think I'll do the same thing. Curious. Yeah, well, it's all trial and error, so we will see how it continues to go. Thank you for kind of following me on this cleaning and pressing journey that I'm taking myself on for this to learn. I'm curious. Gotta take notes. I definitely will keep you all posted as to what happens with the next round. It looks really nice, like even as is right now. Seems like it could go and be sold for quite a bit more than what it was. I mean, the quality, if one were to send it to get slabbed via CGC or CBCS, it would have jumped, a huge quality jump, especially in the cover. All right, so let's try this once again. Make sure there's no debris or anything on these backing boards. And so that's from the front. Curious, I don't wanna. Sorry, talking out loud to myself like a comic book mad scientist at the moment, just trying to figure out what the best way is to get this done. How cool is that back cover? Casey Jones and Raphael. I have those as well, so I definitely will be pressing those. I do notice a little bit of the Teflon has its own kind of, if I were to press any further than this, I think it would have an effect on the book itself. It would make the cover look like it had the Teflon edging to it. Set this up some more. Trying to have both of them facing upward. You can definitely use, there's some lines that can still be pressed out. So we will see what happens upon round 2 with no center backboard. Let's turn this on. That'll heat up to 175. 175. It will sit at 175 for 25 seconds again, and then maybe I'll leave it for another 6 hours. I wonder if there's something I'm missing, or maybe it just does require, 12 hours for books that were really, and those books were very wavy, so I would be curious what's going to be happening there. All right, let me move this just a bit, take you through the office. So I got some other items here. My Bob Ross painting the Happy Universe. My office is a bit of a mess, but I do have some other things I'm working on. Some cool setups here. That Negan Lives ruby foil, or rather red foil, it's going to be going up for sale soon, so keep your eyes peeled. Here we go. So clock is ticking. Once that rings, see, I'm noticing the heat continues to rise on this even though it's a preset. So I'm curious if there's like some issue with the... Alright, let it go for a round 2. Alright, so the next step in taking a look at these books, I have left it overnight in the press, and I switched up the setting just a little bit, the way that it was set up in there. So these are the 2 pieces of the Teflon baking sheets. And what I did that was a little different, I put the 2 Golden Age backing boards on top of the book to try to reduce the impression that the Teflon sheet creates. It's very slight, but it creates a slight impression on the book. So let's see. It seemed to pull up any color. I put the glossy side down, so maybe that's might be a little bit of a concern or mistake. It seemed like it had to peel off of the book when I grabbed it just now. But yeah, there's still this one line right down here. I mean, the book is in fantastic shape in comparison to what it was originally. And I think that line that was coming down the center right here, or rather the edge, is gone because of taking out the center backing board. It might have just been a little too much pressure initially. Back cover looks great. It does have the feeling of that impression of the Teflon sheet, but you have to like kind of put your eyes right up on it, because even on camera it's taken out all the wrinkles or pressable defects, but looks really cool. All right, this one's going in a bag. So the funny thing is, it just had a tough time getting into this modern bag and board. I'm more of a fan of Silver Age just because it gives a little bit of space for the books to have a little room, you know. So also if it falls and it dings the edge, it's more likely to ding the edge of the Silver Age backing board than it is to do it with a modern. But I mean, wow, if you saw the book and how it was before, that's a pretty solid press for a first go around. So this little, I forget the term, but the wrapping is slightly off. As you can see, the inside of the first page right there, but it's pressed pretty well. So that's one. And get this other backing board ready and see how. And so much little debris and things like that get stuck on this stuff. All right. Okay. Didn't seem like it took anything off the book. Better for parchment paper. Now this is the one. Ooh-wee. Sharp corners. It also has a little bit of that Teflon look to it. Very, very, very subtle. I don't think it would affect the grading of the book at CGC, but you never know. You should be curious to find out about that. Yeah, back cover is really nice and crisp. Looking good. All right, not bad for a first timer on this. I'll probably be experimenting with parchment paper next, just to see what results that will yield. But here we go. To Casey Jones #1. They were really wavy. Looked like they had some moisture exposure. That's how wavy they were. But now it's really beautiful and increased the value of these cool books. All right, my cosmic friends, thank you for tuning in. Is it in there? I think cosmic.